Good morning, everyone. Welcome to a session of Live at the Waterhole today. It's me, your guide for the session, Kenneth Gamble. We're starting off here at Manta's Founders Lodge in the Eastern Cape. Got a couple of rhinos joining us. Looks certainly quite windy, that part of the world. But let's see what's in store for us. Just a reminder, it's a live and interactive show, so please send through your questions on the different links, and we'll do our best to go through them. See, Penelope Kenyon is watching. Welcome to the show. Hopefully we have a few interesting things. Quite a large gathering of rhinos to start off the show. I think I count about 6 or so rhinos meandering around here. Actually, it slipped my mind that today is Halloween. It's obviously not something that's too big in Hoedspruit or the bush. Obviously you see a few decorations, but a lot of the properties in the area are on reserves, etc., and you don't necessarily go trick-or-treating in the African bush at night. There's some other creatures and costumes you don't want to run into. So there was a bit of dust being kicked up by the rhinos. It's interesting to note this one's body language with its ears back, looking a bit it can signal submissive behavior or a bit of uncomfort or unease. So maybe just standing its ground a bit and asserting its dominance. Penelope, I do agree. Would be a good name, Rhino Pan or Rhino Ridge, maybe. Seems to be like the waterhole is on a bit of a high up area. Philip is asking, what is a gathering of rhinos called? If I'm not mistaken, obviously collective nouns are a bit creative, so not always necessarily scientifically accurate, but a gathering of rhinos is known as a crash of rhinos. As far as descriptive terms go, I think that's quite accurate and fitting. Can hear someone splishing and splashing in the water. It's either one of the rhinos or maybe the pygmy rhinos, aka the warthogs, running around there, maybe having a bit of a mud bath. Certainly does look sunny there, so I'm sure a mud bath is right on schedule. But I think it maybe would be a bit frigid with that strong wind blowing, depending how chilly the wind is. Chile, Africa. Nice to have you here. Glad you find the shows refreshing and that you're really enjoying them. I often have Wild Earth running in the background when I'm busy with other tasks. So it's always something interesting to see. I did notice this morning on drive the hammerkop trying to catch the toads, etc. was quite entertaining, but it just shows you there's always something out of the blue that can appear. Mr. Elemental has got a fun idea or interesting idea of a collective name for house cats, capital of cats. Out of curiosity I actually went to go look it up. I saw one of the terms as a clutter pounce or a cluster, but yeah, I think if you've got a number of house cats, a clutter is maybe quite fitting. I myself have one cat that I inherited when I finished university, I've been best friends since, and in turn the neighbour's cat moved in, so now we have 2 cats, but I think that's more than enough chaos for one household in the bush. It's very interesting to see when the rhinos get a bit close to each other how they quickly assert their space boundaries and the ears are folded back in that submissive display, or quite playful animals. I think you generally see it a bit more in white rhinos since they're not as confiding as black rhinos. The amount of times I think you see a black rhino on a camera is minimal. Sorry everyone, we just lost a bit of feed to that stream. We just popped over to Nkoro instead. Got a hippo that's taking it very peacefully today, and he's got two amigos or 2 body surfers. You can see the stark contrast on the weather here in the Lowveld today. Since yesterday we've had very cloudy, rainy weather, so I can imagine Mr. Hippo is feeling a bit cold. It's not too warm today.
This unfolds in front of you.
What does it take to handle the wild? Balance. Determination. Focus.
Yaku!
And gear that can take a beating so you don't have to.
Real? You say the best kind of roadblock? Absolutely. Look at this.
Hello, girls.
Every month, something wild lands in your inbox. From rare sightings and behind-the-scenes secrets to expert stories, seasonal changes, and exclusive travel opportunities, the Wild Earth Journal is your free monthly mailer, packed with the magic of the wild straight from the field. It's fun, it's free, it's full of surprises. Sign up now on the Wild Earth website.
But in general, yeah, they don't, I mean, if they had to fight, the elephant wins, but they don't, I wouldn't say they're exactly best friends. They just do their own things. Ben was asking how do the terrapins hold onto the hippo. Ben, so obviously they've got claws, so they can grab and kind of claw their one. Once they're on top of the hippo, it's obviously a fair bit flatter and they're happy. But yeah, they merely just clamber on top. And as a few other people were mentioning, Hank the hippo is always accommodating. Doesn't seem to really bother him. I don't think he really feels much either. I don't think it's... well, if it was irritating, he would have shooken them off. So he's not too worried. Ivan is asking if flood control is a major concern as the rainy season arrives. Ivan, yeah, as much things go in the bush, there's not much you can do to stop it. Some of the rivers that lead into parts of the Kruger or elsewhere, they are dammed up, but at a point, eventually the dam can only hold so much water and it must let the rest go past. So it's just one of those things. It's a natural phenomenon in the African bush, and sometimes systems actually thrive due to a bit of flooding. It fills pans up, redistributes nutrients and soil. But yeah, it's still quite early. We've had good rain, but I wouldn't say it's flood level rain yet. As far as I understand, in the southern part of the Kruger, there's been some stronger, bigger deluges of rain, but nothing serious or dangerous. But yeah, just one of those things. There's not much control, and the best you can do is stay out of the way and get to high ground if there is a concern of a flood. Well, we're going to leave Hank and his two friends behind, and we're going to head over to Victoria Falls. It's certainly looking quite pleasant up there in Victoria Falls. Got the marabou stalks just standing in the sun. We had a cormorant swimming around there in the water. Looked like a reed cormorant to me. Obviously looking for some catfish or tilapia fish. He's gone back underneath the surface of the water. It'd be quite cool. Maybe we see him pop up with a fish. Oh, aside from our graceful marabou stalks, it's rather quiet here at Victoria Falls. We're gonna mosey on to Timber Plains, which is looking quite fantastic there at the moment. Oh, that's quite pretty. We've got some beautiful carmine bee-eaters. These are the southern carmine bee-eater. I don't think they've necessarily reached southern Africa. Often get to see them in the Kruger Park. It's one of my favorite things to see during the December holidays. But yeah, so quite beautiful birds. There is a northern carmine bee-eater as well, but obviously found more in the northern parts of the continent. But they have just got such a stunning crimson. I think crimson's the correct color in my opinion, but yeah, such a pretty coloration about them. Let's see, we had two, we've only got one left. They're just standing by waiting to hawk some insects on the wing, or some bees. Interesting to note how they relish bees, and they'll often catch them and then in a way essentially scrape off the stinger and then swallow the bee safely. I don't think I would really want to tangle with bees myself. Ooh, we've got quite a few that have popped by now. Starting to see them all together. I think I can count 6 in total. Nice to see them together like this. Melanistic marble mentioning some of their favourites. I must say that all the bee-eaters for me are full of such beautiful colours, and they're so striking. Fizzy was asking what are the benefits and reasons for birds to be colourful. So obviously there's a number of reasons. It's hard to just narrow it down to one specifically, but essentially if you had to pick a few topics, it would be for survival, of course, sometimes camouflage and concealment. Some birds are green and it allows them to blend in with foliage. Attracting a mate, so we know certain males are very colourful, and that's how they advertise their fitness or attract the female mate, whereas the females tend to be a duller colour. So sexual selection there. Distinct colours can help birds recognise species of their own species. So I mean, if you think of bee-eaters, how many different bee-eaters there are, but each bee-eater species has got its own unique coloration, so that could be one reason, and what we're seeing here. It's for communication and social signals, but yeah, there's the whole range of factors, but I would put it down to, aside from camouflage and species recognition, I think a lot of it is to do with display. The sunbirds that we get in Africa are a good example of that. The females are always a very dull brown colour, and the males are iridescent and quite fantastically coloured. I think it's my first time. Well, I haven't been to Timber Plains in a while on the cameras, but it's quite a pretty part of the world. I haven't been there either in a many number of years. Definitely on the to-do list. Just quite a remote part of the world to go visit, but it is very stunning there on the banks of the Zambezi River. Benny B is asking what are bee eaters and how many species exist. Off the top of my hand, or top of my head, let me count the species. Probably about 4 or 5 that I can think of in South Africa anyway. But we'll get there. But anyway, so bee eaters are a type of bird, obviously. They tend to fly around a bit like swallows sometimes, but obviously they perch much more. They specialize in hawking insects or catching insects on the wing, so dragonflies, bees, wasps, all kinds of insects, but they catch them in flight. So they're quite nimble and agile birds. They generally nest in tunnels or holes in the ground, and some of your species include the European bee eater, which migrates through Africa to get here in the summer, and then obviously it's in Europe in their summer months. You've got the carmine bee eaters, the northern and southern. There's white-fronted bee eaters, white-throated bee eaters, little bee eaters, olive bee eaters. I'm thinking of quite a few now. Those last couple are a bit rarer. Those are the main ones I can think of, but there's quite a wide range of bee eaters. The list is almost endless. I'll go pull up my bird book a bit.
Oh, wow.
What does it take to handle the wild? Balance. Determination. Focus.
Yaku!
And gear that can take a beating so you don't have to.
The bush, full of beauty, wonder, and absolute chaos. And now, all that madness has its own show. It's called a Wild Bush Week. The countdown of the most outrageous, heart-stopping, and sometimes downright ridiculous wildlife moments of the week. Lions throwing their weight around. Hyenas gate-crashing the buffet. Leopards doing, well, leopardy things. Each week, it's a fresh reel of safari gold, a mix of drama,
She's just got an impala, everybody.
danger, and a healthy dose of laughter. So, if you fancy a highlight show with bite, and I don't mean just the animals, tune in to a Wild Bush Week. You bring the tea, and we'll bring the tusks, tails, and teeth.
But they're definitely one of those birds you could sit under a tree with a good book and a pair of binoculars and just watch them go about hunting insects. It's very relaxing. I nearly missed that for a second. We can actually see there's a white-fronted bee-eater that's popped in with these carmine bee-eaters. So you can immediately see the difference in plumage and the size. Interesting to see the two bee-eaters associating like that, but obviously hunting similar type of foods, so a bit of safety in numbers and sticking with the other bee-eaters. But just another example again of their striking and pretty colours. They are very gorgeous birds. Some other bee-eaters that I missed from earlier would be your swallowtail bee-eater, Boehm's bee-eater. There's blue-cheek bee-eater, there's another one. And the last one was rosy bee-eater. These are all bee-eaters you find in Southern Africa, of course. There's many more in Central Africa, Eastern Africa. It's quite a diverse group of birds. Dicks, as far as I know, their numbers are okay. I think across the board, birds are certainly under pressure, especially the migratory birds, when it comes to the areas that they migrate through. Sometimes they're persecuted by people, or habitat destruction, etc. So I think those are some of the challenges the migratory bee-eaters tend to face a bit more. I think in general their numbers are quite stable. It's not uncommon on a safari, if you know what you're listening for, or where to look, to hear the call of one of the bee-eater species or see them. But I wouldn't necessarily consider them one of the rarer or harder to find birds on a birding safari. There are of course certain species that are a bit rarer, but that's generally when you're on the edge of their range. If you're in the right habitat in the right place, they're not too difficult to find. But it certainly is stunning to be able to enjoy a flock of these bee-eaters going about their business. It would be quite cool if you could see one of them maybe bashing a bit of a bee, or trying to remove the stinger, or keep an eye out if it does take place. Joan Mello mentioning besides birds of paradise, bee-eaters are in close second. I do agree. There also are a few other colourful birds I would bring up on that list, but it is still a dream of mine one day to visit the birds of paradise, so hopefully that can take place. Bush Girl is asking, how do bee-eaters safely eat venomous insects? So we touched on it slightly earlier, but yeah, just in short, they kind of deactivate, the venomous insects they're catching are wasps and bees, but they deactivate these stings by beating and squeezing the insects on branches. You can see how white-fronted bee-eaters come in there. So yeah, they just beat them and squeeze them a bit. This will damage the stingers, etc., or try to remove them in a way, or squeeze the venom glands out. But yeah, it's very amazing how they're able to negotiate and remove it so that it's safe to eat. Truly amazing. But obviously the benefit for them hunting these venomous insects as bees and wasps are quite high in fats and protein, so it's a very rich and sustaining meal for them. Dex was, a question from Dex, is it true that in white-fronted and red-throated bee-eaters, to 6-8 helpers per nest. Yes, that is correct. It's actually something that slipped my mind. They are sometimes communal nesters, and they all help one another. The benefit in this is if the main mating pairs, one of them is killed or injured or something like that, then the chicks still have a shot at being raised because there's other helpers. And then the other benefit is also these helpers also get experience in raising chicks, that they themselves one day will be more suited or experienced enough to also raise their own chicks. So it's quite interesting, and it also means each bird doesn't need to invest as much resources to raise the chick, since they're all working together. Ironically, our branch is not empty or devoid of bee eaters, but we're also going to move over to Old Dornier and see what's waiting for us there today. So here we have a Hadida ibis, or the Hadada ibis, however you like to say it. In South Africa we often make a lot of jokes. It's essentially a core memory if you grow up in South Africa. They are quite noisy birds, and you'll often see them in your garden. Very strange and interesting birds, but some people despise them. I find them quite unique and lovable, maybe, in a way. But maybe from a young age, that's where my love of nature stemmed from, always seeing them in the garden. It's interesting to note there's a few different subspecies of the Hadida ibis in Africa. So the one we get in southern Africa has got a completely black eye, whereas this northern subspecies that we're seeing here, aside from that very prominent white stripe on its cheek, it's got that bold white eye. I think in a way, for me, they're a little prettier than the Hadida ibis we get in southern Africa or South Africa. I would love to see this subspecies still. We did a trip to Botswana a few years ago, and I tried to look, and ironically we didn't see any. But they are around. They obviously do quite well with the spread of suburbia, because as people set up houses with gardens and lawns, it suits their habitat requirements quite well. But quite a stunning bird. Typical call, quite a prominent and loud. But yeah, in South Africa that's almost like an alarm clock for us. Certainly very, maybe relatable to a crowing chicken. I got a bit caught up on focusing on the Hadidas, but see, we've got a lone eland cow and a very peaceful giraffe having a drink. A nice and quiet session today here at Old Dornier. Sometimes it's quite nice, that it gives you the opportunity to focus in on the small things and appreciate them. When there's too much going on, it's a bit chaotic. some kind of melon mentioning you'd like 1 ton to give us a treat by turning up. That certainly would be quite a present. I haven't seen him in a long time myself, but I'm sure he's out there doing his thing. The big tuskers have that amazing ability of disappearing or just being off on their own adventures, and they pick times to just reappear from the bush and grace us with their presence. It's always an exciting time though when they do decide to show up. Giraffes is having a peaceful, quiet sip. Hardy does have unfortunately snuck off, but he did get a nice close-up of them, so that certainly is a day well made for me. I'm quite enjoying all our bird watching activities today. It's always wonderful and peaceful watching the animals, but it's certainly much more of a treat when I get to see the birds up close and you get to admire them a bit. Oh no, there's a hardy now. He just moved off to the side a bit. Quite a quick drink from that female giraffe. She's decided she's got places to be. The bull is left pondering his existence or what he's going to do next. So Yaku is 10 has got a question: why do giraffes have long necks? So the reason behind that is just over time and evolutionary pressure. There's competition for browsing between different browsers, and obviously when there's competition and all the browsing is used up, then animals start to starve and go hungry. So the best way to get ahead of your other competitive browsers is to get taller than them. And if you're taller than them, you can start to access parts of foliage that's not available to your competitors, but you've got basically a monopoly on it. At the same time, this also relates to trees also growing taller and taller. Once trees get to a certain height, browsers can't get to them. So it's almost like an untapped resource that is out of reach. So due to evolutionary and natural selection or evolutionary pressures chiefly, this is what drove giraffes to develop such long necks. As trees got taller and to try to get away from browsers, giraffes kept up, and also in that way gave themselves quite a little niche where they didn't need to compete for food as heavily, and they could become quite specialized to capitalize on that niche. So a bit of a complex one, but that is the reason behind it. Mainly they were focusing on trying to get to food that they didn't have to share with other browsers. Hi Raw, yeah, no, the weather in Aldonio looks very similar to what it does in the Lowveld, or you said there in Mpumalanga. certainly quite overcast, with the chance of rain ever present.
Oh, yes, there's a leopard. I've got a leopard here. My name is Cedric, and behind the camera with me we've got Muscles and Paul. Well, it is Feline Friday.
What does it take to handle the wild? Balance. Determination. Focus.
Yaku!
And gear that can take a beating so you don't have to.
Some ellies that we're approaching now.
The light on her as well is absolutely gorgeous.
So we are going to enjoy the rest of this sunset.
Wow, 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 this is absolutely crazy.
And thank you for joining us. For myself and Cam, we will see you next time.
Out here, every wild moment counts, and as a Wild Earth explorer, you will not miss out. Watch the Wild Earth channel ad-free 24/7, and you can even rewind if you have missed out on something. Enjoy the behind-the-scenes video clips, as well as fireside chat, or get the early offers on our travel experiences. It's the best way to stay connected and be part of the Wild Earth family.
Always, I don't know, I struggle to see the good side of it. Julian, a bit of an older question that I lost track of, but it's also relevant to here while we're with the rhinos. You were asking if those red-billed oxpeckers around the, if those oxpeckers around the giraffe were red-billed oxpeckers. more than likely. Generally, your red-billed oxpecker likes to associate with giraffe and other general antelopes. And then your yellow-billed oxpecker, you generally tend to find it associating a lot more with buffalo. Not to say you can't find yellow-billed oxpeckers, but yeah, in general the rule of thumb is it's red-billed oxpeckers on giraffes. And the same goes for rhinos. They tend to also have red-billed oxpeckers on them. I must just double check because I'm not sure if I've confused myself a little bit. I do stand to be corrected. It could also be yellow-billed oxpeckers. Generally here in South Africa, and that is more due to the effect pesticides had on the oxpecker population when it came to cattle farming. The yellow-billed oxpeckers were quite detrimentally hurt by the pesticides that were used to control ticks. Those pesticides have all been banned years ago, thankfully, and we are starting to see quite an increase in yellow-billed oxpecker numbers. But predominantly in southern Africa anyway, you tend to see red-billed oxpeckers. It's interesting, I was doing some reading. Yeah, your yellow-billed oxpecker generally tends to prefer larger mammals. But yeah, it's funny, in my personal experience, just when I go for walks, etc., I often tend to find red-billed oxpeckers on the giraffes. But I think that's more just from a population perspective. Maybe in a couple of years it'll be quite different once the yellow-billed oxpeckers population has recovered properly. Oh, Safari Cat was mentioning one ton went past the camera about 30 minutes ago. So he is in the area. Unfortunately, we just missed him. Oh, that's I guess that's typical of how sneaky and those big tuskers can be. And that age-old advice for right place, right time. That's when you see things. That goes for anything. Any of the cat sightings or some of the more unique animals or birds. You just sometimes have to have luck on your side and be in the right place at exactly the right time. Otherwise you can miss it. But I'm a bit sad we missed one ton. I would have liked to have seen him. It's always wonderful being able to sit and admire some of Africa's most well-known tuskers. Honey Badger with a comment about wind is great for seed dispersal. No, that is for sure. A number of things. Seed dispersal, certain insects rely on it to moving around or dispersing. It certainly has its requirement in nature. Same with if you did not have wind, weather systems would not be able to move around and distribute rain to different areas. So very much a necessary part of the environment. But definitely my least enjoyable part of the weather. It's not very pleasant to be standing out in the wind. Your mammals tend to allow themselves to still be seen, but yeah, generally when it's quite windy, all the birds go into hiding, so maybe that's why I despise it a little bit. Nice question from Wes. Wes is asking, why are rhinos the slowest of all land animals when it comes to reproduction? I'm not necessarily sure if you mean necessarily on a mating side of things. I don't think that's really a issue for them. I think rhinos mate quite readily if they're given the chance. Of course, elephants would be number one slowest. Their gestation is about 22 months, whereas your rhinos are a bit more like 16 months or so. And the short answer for that essentially is when it comes to large mammals, there's so much development that needs to take place before they're born. That's generally what extends your gestation quite heavily. Much bigger organs to develop, and I mean, obviously when they're born they're still small compared to their maximum weight, but it's still comparatively quite large, and that's a lot of things that need to be ready for when that little animal hits the ground. So yeah, obviously the long gestations are what results in these very slow reproductive times, but under the right conditions, if they're safe and they're happy in the habitat, rhinos will continue to breed quite happily. Obviously it just takes time, but at the same time also large animals tend to have much longer lifespans, so they can afford to have that longer gestation. Well, it certainly seems like our rhino is going to have a midday snooze, so we're going to mosey on and see what else is waiting for us. Got a nice gathering of ellies at the waterhole here at Moela. I love this spot. It always looks like a meeting hall or a banquet. You can see the fresh water coming out there. It's actually quite nice at Moela because it's this little trench there, so it allows the elephants to gather and not necessarily fight over one specific little part where the water's coming out. Essentially a drinking trough, but And what I saw as we joined the feed, there was a bit of a disagreement there between the bulls, but everything seems to have settled down again. There was a question that came in from Julian, or comment maybe. Can I tell us about any bird calls or songs that I can identify, or that you can identify? I think some of there's easier ones and there's harder ones. I think notable African ones, if you're on a safari, to look out for would be your barbets. And I'm not going to try and mimic or imitate any bird calls because, yeah, I would not do it justice. But those are some. The African fish eagle has a very unique and noticeable call. It's very pretty. I think that's one could focus on. Sometimes the lapwings ever so slightly. The African fish eagle is certainly a pretty one that I often think of. Your Egyptian goose, not necessarily the prettiest one, but it's I think a staple of any dawn chorus in a bush area near a river. Some of the owlets, your pearl-spotted owlet or your African barred owlet, and a few other owls for that matter, like the Scops owl, are quite pretty night sounds. Your nightjars, specifically the fiery neck nightjar, is quite a pretty bush night sound that you'll hear if you're on safari. So those are just a few that come to mind. Bearing in mind, most areas there's at least 400 to 500 different birds that you can could see in an area. So it's debatable what are the easiest ones and what are the tougher ones, but those are a few very typical ones that I can think of. I love how all those elephants have had their bums to each other at the point that one bull even actually reversed into the other one there. And I see everyone slowly rolling out. They've had their fresh drink. It certainly does appear that the water is coming out with quite a bit of force here at Moela. Almost it's got quite a powerful stream. You can see it slowly making its way obviously to the larger pan itself, but very pretty setting. Can actually see now that the elephants have moved a bit, how they've built something around the inlet there just to protect it from the elephant's trunks from pulling it out or grabbing it or damaging it in any way. Obviously in their search for the freshest water coming up, they can damage a few of the infrastructure. But yeah, it's always very entertaining for me to see the great lengths elephants will go to try and get the clean water as it's bubbling up. Well, I think clean is a relative word, but the fresh water I'm very specific in that way. Although this bull doesn't seem to be really focused on drinking, he's just actually splashing it around a bit. And now it is quiet. But we're not going to go too far, we're going to hop over to Jack's pan. Sure, certainly looking very muddy on the one side of Jack's pan, and very quiet and vast, eerie landscape. Not many animals around here today, just a few wildebeest and one zebra in the far distance there. But yeah, very muddy at the moment. As far as I understood, there was a bit of rain starting to settle in this part of Botswana. But obviously it's going to take quite a bit to fill up a lot of these pans and low-lying areas. It's still very early in the wet season, so much rain to come.
What does it take to handle the wild? Balance. Determination. Focus.
Yaku!
And gear that can take a beating so you don't have to.
Oh, she's gonna catch it!
Come on, Tommy! Watch this, we're about to see a kill. You can see how close he is from where I am. We are here with a male leopard.
Sorry about that everyone, a bit of gremlins in the network again, but we're still here with our sleepy hippos. At one point I was watching the camera now and I thought maybe it had frozen, but it's just the hippos are taking a very deep slumber, of course with the grass swaying in the background with the breeze. Can tell things are definitely much alive. You can also see the odd blink from the hippos or twitch of an ear. Koala Joe speaking about the cute sleepy hippos. They certainly do look quite docile and peaceful when they're snoozing like this. Always difficult to imagine how dangerous and aggressive they can be when you see them like this. Far cry from their aggressive.
I'm Ralph, and I'm taking you to Sibuya Game Reserve, which is one of the only game reserves in Southern Africa accessed only by boat. We'll stay at the luxury forest camp overlooking the Kariga River with an abundance of bird life and animals grazing on the opposite bank. Luxury tented suites set in a riverine forest offers the perfect place for privacy and comfort. Join me on Sibuya and let's experience it together.
What does it take to handle the wild? Balance. Determination. Focus.
Yaku!
And gear that can take a beating so you don't have to.
The bush, full of beauty, wonder, and absolute chaos. And now, all that madness has its own show. It's called a Wild Bush Week. The countdown of the most outrageous, heart-stopping, and sometimes downright ridiculous wildlife moments of the week. Lions throwing their weight around. Hyenas gate-crashing the buffet. Leopards doing, well, leopardy things. Each week, it's a fresh reel of safari gold, a mix of drama,
She's just got an impala, everybody.
danger, and a healthy dose of laughter. So, if you fancy a highlight show with bite, and I don't mean just the animals, tune in to a Wild Bush Week. You bring the tea, and we'll bring the tusks, tails, and teeth.
Fluffed up. So there was a question from Joan Mello asking the cup. Joan, so yeah, it's the start of the rainy season now, throughout most of Africa. South Africa, or Southern Africa anyways, started receiving quite a bit of rain in the various places. Keeping in mind, most, if not almost all of these waterholes are artificial. So, yeah, whether it rains or not, their water level will not fluctuate too much. Obviously, in Tembe we can see the other pans, etc., become a bit more full after some rains. And obviously, you will see the vegetation slowly start to freshen up around the. Yeah, it's the start of the rainy season. The age-old question, when it will rain, this is always a good question. No one truly knows. We've got some ideas. Just gotta hope for the best. See our stalker's giving us a bit of a dance as it moves across the grass, wings outstretched, where they're trying to chase some insects. I'm not sure, or just a bit of a stretch. And we find ourselves back in the Masai Mara. Apologies, it must definitely be Halloween creeping up, and obviously the rough weather here in the Lowveld playing a bit of a role. Got a few weavers at their nests here. Sure, not too far off from our sleepy hippos. I imagine these to more than likely be village weavers. We were here, I think, last weekend, watching some of them build their nests. I think it was just a bit of a different tree, but you can see about three weaver nests in this acacia, or Vichalia if you want to use the new correct name. Question coming from Dex: if only weavers weave. I'm sure there's a few other birds that maybe get a bit creative with their nests, but obviously weavers and their unique ability to weave nests as they do has made them quite famous across the globe for their traits. I'm not specifically sure if it's necessarily 100% unique to them. At the same time, there are also a few other weavers that are maybe not as deserving of the title that some of the other species have. There are some weavers that make quite scruffy looking nests, and debatable to say if they're actually woven much. But as far as the masked weavers or the village weaver in this example goes, they are quite effective craftsmen. Just a reminder to all the viewers, I know we've been discussing the rainy season and all the seasonal changes that we've been admiring and seeing on the cameras and different drives, but just keep in mind from the 1st of November, which is tomorrow, your sunrise safari is now 5 AM to 8 AM Central African time. The Mara Live sunrise is 8 AM to 9 AM. Mara Live sunset's 3 PM to 4 PM, and your sunset safari is 4 PM to 7 PM Central African time as well. Live at the waterhole is not changing, we're still 11 AM to 1 PM, but just a reminder to everyone. apologies everyone, bit of a feed crash, but yeah, just chalk it up sometimes to the weather and a few gremlins, but nonetheless we're live here at Jackie's, just getting back up and running again. So we had a blacksmith lapwing come flapping past. Can see what I was saying earlier about the rain that we've been receiving in the Lowveld. Just here at Jackie's, how much it's greening up around the dam. Can see those grass shoots starting to come up and the bush starting to revive itself. So, the turn of the season is here. See the small blackbird strolling around there. I'm pretty sure that's a red-billed buffalo weaver. There we go, hitting the ground running again. So we're here in Nguma, Tosha National Park. Looks like they're having quite a nice sunny day. As much as I love the rain, it does look quite pleasant there in Etosha. Could do with a bit of sunshine. Looking very pleasant. Obviously they're going to need quite a bit of rain after the fires that went through the area. If I'm not mistaken, I think Nguma is quite on the opposite side of where the fires were. But yeah, you can see most of the vegetation is still quite dry and yellow. So a fair bit of rain still needed that part of the world. Yeah, Penelope, I'm starting to think the gremlins might be following me, but we'll keep fighting the good fight. They can't hold me down. Maybe it's just because it's Halloween this evening that they're extra busy, but we'll keep going. So we've got a few birds lurking around. Do you think I see an Egyptian goose and some lapwings? I'm not sure if next to the lapwings appears to be a heron or an egret. Just can't see too clearly. We're gonna meander over to Rosie's pan, see what's waiting for us there. Ah, that's a nice one. I almost said these are our first elephants of the day, but they are not. We had elephants at Moela, but I would say these are our first closer up views of elephants maybe. They felt a bit distant at Moela. Looking very peaceful and quiet. You can see how overcast it is in the Balule Nature Reserve today. It does certainly reflect on the elephant's behavior. They don't look as hot and bothered, just quite relaxed and enjoying the cooler weather. A bit of a break from the exhaustive heat that they've been enduring. But then again, tomorrow is also quite a warm day, so they must enjoy it while they can. But that's pretty much this time of year. It's breaks of sunshine in between cloudy, rainy days. Just enough to keep everything in balance.
We'll see you out on the safari.
It could be a very exciting morning.
What does it take to handle the wild? Balance. Determination. Focus.
Yaku!
And gear that can take a beating so you don't have to.
And that's it for this morning's drive.
She's just got her impala, everybody.
And we're going to be heading out and seeing what animals we can find.
Out here, every moment counts. As a Wild Earth explorer, you won't miss a thing. Watch the Wild Earth channel ad-free 24/7 and rewind if you want to catch something again. Enjoy behind-the-scenes videos, fireside chats, and early access to travel offers. It's the best way to stay connected and be part of the Wild Earth family.
To 65 years. That's as old as they will get in the wild. And the reason for that is just by the time an elephant reaches the age of 60, 65 or so, its set of teeth, or it has worn through its last set of teeth, and it doesn't have any more teeth to replace those ones. So it unfortunately can't really chew food anymore, and will slowly lose condition and unfortunately pass away by then. Obviously there can be a few other ailments, but yeah, that's one of the main reasons that they start to lose condition. They can't chew their food properly. You'll often see older elephants like that associating or hanging out in habitats where it's marshy or riverine habitat where they can eat softer, greener foods, and that's where they tend to hang around or spend their last few years of life. Deb Davis, no, I do agree with you. It does appear to be that they're just playing in the water. If we look at how this bull left and then quickly came back now, all of a sudden, I don't know what was in his agenda. He's actually sipping a bit, but he doesn't seem to be drinking too seriously. I also see his friend there took some water with him and is now watering the plants next to the water. I don't know what his plan is there, but they're just feeling a bit silly. Ah, I can see a little black crake. Is that a black crake? No, I don't think that's maybe a black crake. I have to watch it a bit carefully. You'll see it's not bathing in the water. It's a bit far, it's just in front of our... No, that appears to be a red-billed buffalo weaver. I was going to say, black cracks don't often bathe like that in the water. And I'll see our hippos either slightly aware or none the wiser of the elephant guest. I'm under the impression he's actually just been ignoring them. He's not too concerned, but peacefully sleeping there. And I see there is a third elephant hiding off in the bushes there. But yeah, they're definitely on quite a go slow today. Don't know if it's the weather or they're just tired after a long week and it is now Friday for them. So they're just counting the hours down before weekend starts. I can certainly relate to them. It's time for a peaceful Friday afternoon. As we say in South Africa, also maybe a braai or a barbecue to everyone else.
What does it take to handle the wild? Balance. Determination. Focus.
Yaku!
And gear that can take a beating so you don't have to.
Morning everybody, thank you so much for joining us.
Wow, that was amazing everybody. If you love watching Wild Earth, here's a little tip. Become a member. You can gain access to the channel ad-free, you can rewind and re-watch sightings, and you can join our Tuesday live safaris. There's also behind the scenes videos, fireside chats, and every safari live episode, whenever you want it. It's just a better way to stay connected to nature.
Take a breath of air if I'm not mistaken. Excuse me, I was timing everything by 2. It's half of that, it's about 6 minutes. That's hold their breath. but might be a bit longer if it's very relaxed, but yeah, about 6 minutes on that. But I still think it's very cool how they can do it almost involuntarily, or involuntarily while they're sleeping, just as a reflex. Quite a cool adaptation. It suits them quite well, because you can imagine if they had to leave the water just to sleep, the sun would be quite harsh on them, so it does enable them to be safe and protected in the water while they sleep. Although it still does beg the question sometimes why they specifically choose to sleep out of the water, but I guess we'd have to ask a hippo one day. See the three musketeers there are feeling quite lazy, not much going on. There's a bit of an internal discussion going on there what the next plan is for them, but nonetheless certainly not in much of a rush. In a very peaceful setting. Thanks for joining, Penelope. Hope you enjoyed it. Yeah, it was a bit of a quieter session today. A lot of the waterholes. I think maybe chalking it up a bit to the weather. Some spots are a bit wet and it's cool. But nonetheless, at least we got to see a few interesting things. Certainly the birding was quite good today. Saw a couple interesting birds across the different locations. And it was also quite nice to see such a variety of camps today. We visited quite a few different locations, so at least we got to see a few different habitats. Well, we're going to leave our stationary elephants for the last bit of the show and head over to our last location. Now, it was quite nice to see Elephants at Rosie's pan. It's always a nice pan for getting a bit of an overview of them. I'm going to finish off here with our brilliantly coloured bee eaters. We've got the Carmine crew and our one white-fronted bee eater. So a bit earlier we managed to zoom out a bit and see the area there foraging in. At least you can also see them flying ever so slightly, but yeah, they move so quickly it would be a mission to keep track of them. You can see the river is flowing very strongly behind them, so obviously the rains up in the catchment areas of the Zambezi have been quite prolific. Once again from my side, thanks to everyone who's joined the show today. Apologies for a few of the difficulties, but we kept going, and yeah, I really enjoyed the birding opportunities we had and a few of the beautiful landscapes we got to admire. But yeah, thanks again to everyone. Hope you have a peaceful Friday further and enjoy the sunset drive later. Also keeping in mind the time changes, don't forget about that.